Hello MotoGP enthusiasts. Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Marc Márquez outlined a pragmatic, low-drama approach to his finances, legal counsel from early on, conservative investments, notably real estate, a talent agency venture and a deliberate effort to keep lifestyle inflation in check. The tone is practical rather than flashy, a champion who treats earnings as tools for stability and future options rather than status symbols. Nicolò Bulega has emerged as a standout in WorldSBK and as Ducati's 850cc test rider, but market dynamics and pre-allocated Desmosedici seats mean his hope for jump to MotoGP in 2027 may be delayed. The situation blends sporting merit with contractual chess. Even a strong Superbike campaign and factory test roll don't guarantee a premier-class berth when most seats appear already assigned. Aprilia's recent run, driven by Marco Bezzecchi's string of victories and Jorge Martin's return to form, has transformed the Noali mark from a rising contender into the clear benchmark in MotoGP. The statistics from late 2025 and the opening 3 rounds of 2026 show a rapid, measurable leap in results, podium frequency and historical context that together make a compelling case. Aprilia is enjoying the most successful period in its premier class history. Honda HRC has returned to Sepang for a private 3-day test of its 2027 850cc prototype, with test riders Takaki Nakagami and Alex Espargaro pictured on site. The sessions mark a fresh phase in Honda's adaptation to the new regulations and offer an early glimpse of how the Japanese factory is approaching the switch in engine architecture, tire supplier dynamics, and the broader technical reset. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Marquez says his early career choices were shaped by a simple lesson: seek the best machinery first, because the real money is made in MotoGP. That mindset guided decisions such as team moves and contract priorities, and it underpins a long-term view of earnings as a byproduct of sporting success rather than the primary objective. After his first world title, Marquez engaged legal and financial advisors and has continued to work with them. That professional framework helps him manage salary, incentives and commercial income from advertising, and it informs his choices about investments and business ventures. Early professional advice is a common thread among athletes who sustain wealth beyond their competitive peak. One of Marquez's notable moves was buying property in Pozuelo del Arcón, Madrid, a purchase he frames as an investment rather than ostentation. He emphasizes that the house is paid off and that he carries no debts, signaling a conservative, debt-averse financial posture. He also stresses that money has not changed his lifestyle, a deliberate stance against the common trap of rapid lifestyle inflation. "I'm lucky that money hasn't changed my lifestyle." Real estate is a typical anchor asset for athletes seeking capital preservation and long-term stability. Beyond property, Marquez has diversified into business by creating a talent representation agency. That move reflects a broader strategy: convert sporting profile into recurring commercial opportunities and build structures that can outlast an active racing career. He balances entrepreneurial risk with conservative personal finance choices. Building business interests around a sporting brand is a common route to post-career income for elite athletes. Marquez describes himself as self-employed rather than operating through a limited company, a status he says is open to interpretation by tax authorities. He prefers the clarity of declaring income as self-employed to avoid complications and public scrutiny. The comment underlines a pragmatic approach to compliance and reputation management. Keep affairs straightforward and avoid headlines. "I am self-employed, I am not a company. I declare my income as self-employed because otherwise they come in. I'm in trouble." Marquez's financial story is one of cautious stewardship rather than flamboyance. Legal counsel, conservative investments, a business foothold and a deliberate resistance to lifestyle inflation combine to create a durable platform beyond the racetrack. For a rider whose career decisions have sometimes been framed as emotional or dramatic, his fiscal approach is quietly methodical: protect capital, diversify income, and keep the focus on performance. That discipline will matter whether he extends his career, negotiates future contracts, or transitions into life after racing. Bulega's appointment as Ducati's test rider for the new 850cc project and his dominant start in WorldSBK positioned him as a logical MotoGP candidate. His 2 early hat-tricks in Superbike underline racecraft and tire knowledge that are valuable for the 2027 regulation reset. Riding the Desmosedici in late-season outings gave him a taste of the premier class and suggested a pathway upward. Test roles and substitute appearances are often the clearest route into MotoGP, but they don't guarantee a seat when commercial and political factors intervene. The 2027 reshuffle has been busy. Factory and satellite allocations appear to have consumed nearly all available Ducati seats. Confirmed moves, including Pedro Acosta to the factory team, Pecco Bagnaia switched to Aprilia, Aldeguer to VR46 and Fabio Di Giannantonio's VR46 confirmation, leave little room for additional promotions. That leaves Bulega in a precarious position despite his credentials. Bulega's manager has been candid. There's no written offer yet and Ducati's roster looks largely assigned. Nationality, commercial balances and the cascade of linked moves all influence final line UPS. The message is pragmatic: remain ready, but accept that timing and politics can delay even the most logical promotions. Agents often frame uncertainty as opportunity management. Keep negotiating while preparing alternative plans. Bulega faces a classic career trade-off. Dominating WorldSBK consolidates his reputation and keeps him race-sharp, but it can also anchor him outside MotoGP if seats are scarce. Conversely, a premature jump without a clear factory pathway risks stagnation. For now, his Superbike form and test role are valuable credentials. They keep him visible and technically relevant for the 850cc era. A strong season in WorldSBK can either accelerate a MotoGP move or become a comfortable alternative if timing doesn't align. Bulega's route into MotoGP depends on a handful of dominoes: a surprise non-renewal, a last-minute commercial swap, or a team deciding on a different profile for balance, nationality, sponsor fit, or experience. The manager's line, "We'll be ready if a space opens," captures the contingency plan: stay competitive, stay visible, and be prepared to act fast if a seat frees up. Nicolò Bulega's trajectory remains promising but uncertain. His Superbike dominance and role as Ducati's 850cc test rider make him a natural MotoGP candidate, yet the current allocation of Desmosedici seats means he may have to wait. For now, the sensible strategy is dual: continue to build an unassailable Superbike resume while keeping negotiations active and options open. If a late-season vacancy appears, Bulega will be well placed to step into MotoGP. If not, his WorldSBK success will still leave him with a strong, high-profile career path. Aprilia went from 5 all-time MotoGP wins to 11 inside roughly 6 months. Bezzecchi's victories in the closing races of 2025 and his clean sweep of feature races in 2026, Thailand, Brazil, United States, account for the bulk of that surge. That pace of accumulation is unprecedented for the factory since its return to the class, and it places Aprilia among the more successful marques historically in a compressed timeframe. 11 MotoGP wins for Aprilia after a decade in the class, most of them achieved since 2021. Aprilia's strength is not limited to Grand Prix Sundays. The factory has consistently placed machines on the front row and converted qualifying performance into race control. Coda marked the 5th consecutive Grand Prix with at least one Aprilia on the front row, underlining the package's single lap and race pace. Bezzecchi's ability to lead long stints has also produced record numbers for consecutive laps led. 5 consecutive Grands Prix with an Aprilia on the front row. Bezzecchi holds a record streak of 121 consecutive laps led so far. The results translate into commanding championship positions. Aprilia Racing sits well clear in the team standings, and the manufacturer leads by a substantial margin. The factory's depth, 2 race winners and multiple podium contenders across factory and satellite entries, has created a points cushion that rivals must chase. Aprilia leads the manufacturer's standings by 32 points over Ducati after 3 rounds. Aprilia achieved consecutive 1-2 finishes for the first time in its MotoGP history, a milestone that signals not just isolated wins but consistent top-end performance across the grid. Jorge Martin's string of podiums complements Bezzecchi's victories, showing the package works for multiple riders and race situations. Aprilia recorded back-to-back 1-2 finishes, and the team has amassed 39 MotoGP podiums, 34 of them since 2021. Part of Aprilia's advantage has been a favorable match with tire behavior, particularly when Michelin supplied a reinforced rear carcass early in the season. The WorldSBK's stability and grip characteristics have translated into confidence for riders and consistent race pace. That synergy between chassis, aero and tire has been a decisive factor in converting development gains into race wins. Aprilia's early season package produced a 4-win lead over KTM in total victories. Aprilia's current run is both statistical and structural: wins, podiums and front row starts combined with a bike that suits multiple riders and a team that has closed development gaps quickly. The next major test is Jerez, where historical data favors rivals. If Aprilia repeats its form there, the streak will shift from a hot streak into a season-defining advantage. For now, the numbers speak plainly. Aprilia is in the midst of its most successful era in MotoGP. Honda ran a focused private test at Sepang, using dry conditions to build on the initial work done there in December 2025. Nakagami, who led the first winter outings, has already described the 850 cubic centimeters prototype as super light in early impressions. Recent social posts suggest Alex Espargaro also rode the bike this week, signaling a widening of the test program beyond the initial development crew. The 850cc project forces manufacturers to rethink mass distribution, torque delivery, and aerodynamics. Nakagami's first comments about the bike feeling notably lighter are important. Reduced perceived mass can change braking points, turn-in and mid-corner stability. Honda's engineers will be focused on translating that lightness into usable cornering grip and predictable behavior on new Pirelli rubber. Early impressions are provisional. The priority at this stage is to understand the package's fundamental characteristics rather than chase lap times. Honda's testing plan appears deliberately staged. Nakagami has been the primary rider for the 850cc project so far, with Alex originally slated to concentrate on 2026 development before switching to the 2027 program later in the year. If Alex has now sampled the prototype, it suggests Honda is accelerating cross-validation of rider feedback to broaden the development perspective. Multiple rider inputs, one with deep HRC experience and one with recent factory-level feedback, help engineers triangulate setup directions and rider-specific preferences earlier in the cycle. The 2027 era brings Pirelli into MotoGP, a variable that compounds the engineering challenge. Early tests must therefore pair chassis and engine mapping work with tire characterization. Honda's December rain-affected test limited tire data. The dry Sepang sessions are an opportunity to begin building a tire map that will inform spring and summer development. Successful integration of the new tire behavior with the 850cc power delivery will be a decisive factor in early competitiveness. Honda is not alone in fast-tracking 850cc work. Every factory is balancing 2026 race commitments with 2027 development. Honda's approach, measured, rider-led and staged, aims to avoid rushed conclusions while collecting robust baseline data. The next milestones to monitor are further rider cross-checks, Pirelli tire tests, and whether Honda publishes technical impressions or expands the test roster. Sepang's private test is an early but meaningful step. If this super light sensation translates into a controllable, high-grip package on Pirelli rubber, Honda can close the gap to rivals before the 2027 season. If not, the team will need to iterate quickly through summer tests. Either way, the stepping work will shape Honda's development priorities and inform how aggressively it pursues performance gains ahead of the regulation change. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!